Welcome to Tech News, your best source of information. Today we'll be talking about the Qatar diplomatic crisis. But before talking in depth about this subject, we should address some relevant information about this country. Qatar is one of the richest countries in the world, and despite this, it has been in a diplomatic crisis for almost 3 years. Qatar is a sovereign Arab state located in Western Asia and occupies a small peninsula of Qatar in the east of the Arabian Peninsula. The country has a single land border to the south with Saudi Arabia, while the rest of its territory is surrounded by water of the Persian Gulf. The government is an absolute monarchy and has been ruled by the Al Thani family since the mid-19th century. The current Qatari Emir, Commander-in-Chief, is Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who came into office after abdicating his father in 2013. Islam is the official religion of this country, and it is professed by 77.5% of the population. We have here in the studio reporter Anderson Cooper to help us add some important facts about Qatar. Welcome, Anderson.
Thank you, Sue, for inviting me to talk about this really interesting country. Did you know Qatar has the third largest natural gas reserve in the world? This has made the small emirate the country with the highest per capita income on the planet. This progress led it to reach the highest human development in the entire Arab region. Qatar has a population of over 2 million people, but only 250,000 of them are Qatari citizens. Most of its inhabitants are foreigners who work and live there. This country has recently begun to gain weight in the Arab world. Qatar managed to extend its global influence through its new organization, Al Jazeera Media Network. Al Jazeera is a media group founded by the Qatari government in 1996. It covered the Arab Spring more than any other news outlets and has reported governmental human rights abuses. In tech news, we have a big surprise for our audience. Hamad Al Thani, for the first time in exclusive talking about the crisis. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know you have a busy agenda.
It is a pleasure to be here. In June 2017, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates severed diplomatic relations with my country and imposed a blockade on Qatar that turned the peninsula practically into an island. The principal reason of this conflict is that my neighbor countries protested against our support for Islamist movements across the Middle East, in particular the Muslim Brotherhood. My involvement with the Sunni and Shia militants was intended to recover 26 hostages that were kidnapped in Iraq. Saudi Arabia raised the stakes, demanding us to change our policies in order to end the Gulf crisis. They gave us a list with 13 major points. The list included closing Al Jazeera broadcaster, shutting down a Turkish military base, and ending all diplomatic ties with Iran. This was not at all fair.
Thank you, Hamad, for your time. At Tech News, we don't want to give you just one version of the story. This is why the Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salam, also accompanies us today.
Thank you, Tech News, for having me. As the Saudi Arabian prince handling the issue of the land, air, and sea blockade we imposed on Qatar, it was our duty as one of the stronger countries of the GCC to give Qatar a list of demands in order for them to return to the right path and avoid putting in danger the rest of the countries that surround us. Not only does Qatar have questionable relations with Iran and Turkey, but they also have a history of funding terrorist groups. Countries in the GCC will not forget Qatar paying terrorist groups after the royal family was kidnapped by giving them $700 million. We gave Qatar 10 days to respond to demands, but they refused. Qatar's imports and flights were damaged as the countries lost access to all neighbor ports and airports. Those were not the only consequences, but Qatari citizens living in my country were expelled, although exceptions for Qataris married to Saudis and for Qatari pilgrims to Mecca. But as a country, we believe that Qatar has to own up to its problems and its mishaps of doing that and accepting the consequences.
What do you think, Sue? What could be a possible solution for them to stop fighting?
Well, I'm not sure, Anderson. We should ask an expert in the subject. Please welcome Tihani Muhammad Bande, the current president of the United Nations, who will be sharing his opinion about the possible solutions for this rift.
Thank you, Sue. I am very happy to be here with all of you sharing my thoughts about these two great countries. I believe the solution best suited for this complex issue would be the involvement of a powerful neutral third party that, with the help of Qatar and the countries of the GCC, could create a new and less aggressive list of demands towards Qatar. Previously, Kuwait acted as a mediator, but at the same time, Kuwait is a country that has very little influence on the rest of the states involved. So there needs to be a more powerful country that acts as a mediator in the issue. On the other hand, the recent coronavirus outbreak will greatly impact the possible resolutions of this crisis due to the direct consequences these countries will have. Everyone is undergoing great changes, and with support, it is always easier. Arab countries could depend on their neighbors. It is no time to have enemies. Resolving the conflict would benefit all of the Gulf economies and would be thanked by many of their citizens.
It has been very interesting hearing out different arguments about this crisis the Arab countries are living. Thank you again, Hamad, Mohammed, and Tijani for being here today at Tech News.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. This is Sue Turton reporting from Al Jazeera. See you soon.